that Dillon Gabriel, respectfully, it was stupid. A very dumb comment to make. First of all, let me tell you something right now. In every walk of life, far beyond the parameters of a football field, people are competing. We compete here on television. You compete with radio shows. You compete on Wall Street. You compete on Madison Avenue. Everything, especially in America, as it pertains to a capitalistic society, involves competition. To the victor goes the spoils.
Dillon Gabriel thought he was about to trend with his latest jab at Shedeur Sanders, but instead, he walked straight into Stephen A. Smith's verbal demolition derby. This wasn't just a clapback, it was a public takedown so sharp it left the whole room buzzing. Picture stepping into a chess match, only to realize halfway you've been playing checkers the whole time. Embarrassing doesn't even cover it. That's exactly what unfolded, and the way it spiraled was flat out brutal.
You ever heard of an audition, Dillon Gabriel?
There's entertainers and there's competitors, and my job is to compete.
You don't know that competition exists everywhere? That's just a dumb, idiotic, entitled statement.
Whoa.
You want to play in front of empty stands? You want to play when nobody's watching? Good luck, bro. Hope you can play under duress and adversity, because it's coming your way after those comments.
Whoa.
Stephen A. Smith didn't just stroll onto the set. He stormed in like a man personally insulted by Dillon Gabriel's very presence. You could almost see the fire in his eyes, scanning the studio like a battlefield commander about to launch heavy artillery. Poor Dillon, clueless as ever, really thought he could ride some hype by tossing shade at Shedeur Sanders. But what he didn't realize was that this wave wasn't made of water. It was a full-blown tsunami, and its name was Stephen A. Smith.
Echoes the mentality of all of America practically, and most certainly the world, as we see things being globalized more and more every day. It was a stupid, idiotic, immature comment, because clearly you were feeling the heat, because a lot of people was talking about how Shedeur should be QB number 2. But I know he was not talking about Shedeur Sanders. He was talking about the media. Here's the problem. You've now heightened the level of scrutiny coming your way because the media, including myself, heard what you said.
Picture this, Dillon Gabriel strutting like he's already stamped into the Hall of Fame, chest puffed up, acting like the spotlight was made for him. But in the blink of an eye, Stephen A. shattered that illusion clean in half, snapped it like a stale breadstick at Olive Garden. One moment Dillon's a quarterback begging for relevance, and the very next he's reduced to a living cautionary tale of what happens when you decide to poke the wrong bear.
Noise, and you don't let it infiltrate yourself. Will you share that with everybody at home?
Yeah, I think it's just part of it. You know, there's entertainers and there's competitors, and I totally understand that. And my job is to compete, and that's what I'm focused on doing. Of course, we're doing this mid-game, but it's something that I'll get used to, and just want to be the best teammate I can and create an environment where we can all go do our best work. That's all we want to do. All you in this room are entertainers, and you have a job to do, and I respect it, right? And I'm a competitor, so I have a job to do as well.
Here's the raw truth. Nobody comes out alive going toe-to-toe with Stephen A. when he's locked in one of those moods. You know exactly the vibe. His voice climbing higher with every syllable until it feels less like a sports debate and more like you've been dropped into a raging audio hurricane. Poor Dillon thought he was stepping in for some lighthearted back and forth, but what he really signed up for was a front-row draft into the unforgiving army of regret.
I didn't see any interceptions when he was out there. You see anything like that? I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think Dillon Gabriel did a bad job. I was impressed with the brother, but I'm going to go with Shedeur. The pressure was on him. The spotlight was on him. He showed up out on the field. He played better than expected, reminded everybody who he is and what he brings to the table. I liked it, but that's not to throw any shade on Dillon Gabriel. He came out there, had a couple of mishaps, what have you, but ultimately he played well, and I give him credit where credit is due. But watching Shedeur move the offense or whatever, I thought that his performance was slightly better than Dillon Gabriel. That's just me, guys.
Yeah. And talk about bad timing. Shedeur Sanders is on fire right now. He's stacking momentum, flipping doubters into believers, and rewriting his whole storyline in real time. The last thing he needs is Dillon Gabriel yapping at his heels like some underfed Pomeranian. But Dillon couldn't help himself. He tried to wedge his way into Shedeur's spotlight, like an uninvited wedding guest grabbing the mic for a toast nobody asked for. Big mistake, because if Shedeur's rise is a blockbuster movie, Dillon's cameo just got left on the cutting room floor. Stephen A. didn't just clap back, he practically threw a parade celebrating Dillon's irrelevance. And here's the thing, Stephen A. doesn't argue, he performs. He stacks sentences like skyscrapers brick on brick until you're standing in the shadow of a rhetorical empire with no way out. Meanwhile, Dillon could barely get past the blueprint stage, fumbling with the manual, while Stephen A. had already built the tower, held the grand opening, and cut the ribbon with giant gold scissors.
Both the Browns' rookie quarterbacks are being positioned, in their opinion, to start games this upcoming season, but how each quarterback is on a completely different developmental path for the summer here. So they said Shedeur Sanders is the one being, quote, carefully nurtured in a controlled environment, and Dillon Gabriel is being, quote, thrown directly into the fire against the team's best defenders. So that's where we transition over to this article that says why Dillon Gabriel is getting first-team reps while Shedeur Sanders waits his turn.
Let's be real. Dillon Gabriel isn't some scrub. He can sling the football, lead an offense, and flash just enough skill to get a fan base believing he's the future. But the second he tried to get slick about Shedeur Sanders, that was career suicide by microphone. Stephen A. doesn't tolerate pretenders. He can sniff out insecurity from a mile away, and Dillon was practically marinating in it. That's like pulling up to a 5-alarm fire with a water pistol. You're not saving the block, you're getting laughed straight off it. And the wildest part? Dillon really thought he was doing damage. He thought he was stirring drama, shifting the spotlight, making the conversation about himself. Instead, he got clowned into becoming the punchline of the week. Because when you go up against Stephen A., you don't walk away with momentum, you walk away folded. Meanwhile, Shedeur is somewhere cracking up, probably not even breaking a sweat. Why waste time clapping back when Stephen A. just did the dirty work for you? It's like having your big brother step into the schoolyard, spot a wannabe bully and body slam him in front of the whole cafeteria. Now Shedeur gets to keep stacking highlights while Dillon's stuck explaining how he ended up folded like a lawn chair on national TV.
A Cleveland Browns reporter who attended rookie minicamp was asked who throws the ball better between Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel, and he said, it's not even close. It's Shedeur Sanders.
One of the two look better to you in what they were asked to do than the other?
In just throwing the ball,
Yeah.
It's not close. Shedeur Sanders.
It's not close
not
either.
Close. No.
Wow, that's okay. Now that's
But
news.
that's new.
Me,
But let me
that's-
couch that by saying this is rookie minicamp.
Sure.
No pads, no full speed competition.
But it is-
Nobody coming to knock your head
It's
off.
telling. They're side by side, and they're not asked to do much, but they're both asked to do the same thing. And that
Yes.
one of them looked discernibly better than the other. I think that I didn't know that we would.
And let's be clear, Stephen A. didn't whisper his thoughts. Not even close. He blasted them so loud, the whole country had no choice but to listen. This wasn't a calm critique. It was a full-blown megaphone moment, every syllable ringing out like church bells inside Dillon's head. By the end, you could almost see Dillon gasping, trying to remember how to breathe, like someone who just got dunked on so hard they temporarily forgot gravity even exists. But here's where the comedy cuts deeper. Dillon actually thought he could hijack Shedeur's spotlight. You just know he was in the mirror that morning, hyping himself up, rehearsing lines, practicing that smug little smirk. But what he forgot is this: Shedeur Sanders isn't just another quarterback. He carries a name, a legacy, and a natural charisma that can flip stadiums into theaters. You don't steal light from that. You only end up looking like a moth flying straight into the sun. And right there, the consensus was set. Dillon Gabriel officially crossed the line from quarterback to comic relief. That's the brilliance of Stephen A. He doesn't just argue, he crafts cultural moments that live way beyond the segment.
Cleveland Browns rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders, son of Deion Sanders, and Dillon Gabriel, both fighting for a position on the Cleveland Browns depth chart at quarterback. Now, what I find interesting here was last week, Shedeur Sanders had an opportunity to play in the preseason. He did well, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And this week, Dillon Gabriel had an opportunity to play as well. He had an interception that was ran back for a touchdown, and he had a fumble in which the team lost the ball a second time.
Dillon Gabriel won't be remembered for a clutch touchdown, a comeback drive, or even leadership in the locker room. No, his legacy just got stamped as the guy who thought he could clown Shedeur Sanders, only to end up starring in his own blooper reel. If Dillon's PR team had any brains, they'd lean into the mess. Print up shirts that say Stephen A. roasted me and start moving merch, because right now that's the only marketable storyline he's got left. He's not trending for stats. He's not trending for leadership. He's trending because Stephen A. reduced him to rubble in front of a live audience with millions laughing along. And let's be clear, Dillon brought this heat on himself, which leaves us with the moral of the story. Don't ever come for Shedeur Sanders when Stephen A. Smith is within earshot. 1 second you're trying to be clever, the next you're being used as the poster child in the How Not to Embarrass Yourself handbook. Dillon Gabriel learned that lesson the hard way. And honestly, the rest of us were lucky enough to score front row seats to the carnage.
Gabriel working with Flacco, Pickett, first teams, and Shedeur, like I said, often works with himself on a different field with the second and third string guys. Mary Kay Cabot, she said they are using mostly Dillon and Kenny Pickett to try to figure out what works in this offense and what doesn't. It's a new scheme. They have to throw some things out. They have to put some things in, and they're not putting all of that on Shedeur's plate as the fourth team quarterback. They're trying to get Kenny and Dillon possibly ready to play, maybe to be the starter and the backup possibly. And, during the pre-draft process, Shedeur Sanders, one of the big pluses in his column was most pro-ready quarterback.
The internet stays undefeated, and Dillon Gabriel just learned that lesson the hard way. Within seconds of Stephen A. unleashing that verbal missile, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and every group chat across America lit up like the 4th of July. People weren't just watching the takedown, they were living it. Looping the clips, dissecting every facial twitch, every shaky syllable, every micro expression Dillon made when it finally hit him that he had stepped in it big time. Another show even painted Dillon as a cartoon character, flattened on the pavement like Wile E. Coyote chasing the Roadrunner. Only this time, the Roadrunner was Shedeur Sanders, and the falling anvil was Stephen A.'s booming voice. Fans weren't letting up either. They turned Dillon's name into a whole new unit of failure. That project flopped? Straight Dillon Gabriel move. He missed his shot? Man, that's Dillon vibes. Imagine falling from quarterback to running punchline in under 24 hours. That's legacy erosion in real time. Meanwhile, Shedeur didn't lift a finger. No tweets, no posts, no clapbacks. He didn't have to. Stephen A. already finished the job for him.
If he struggles even a little bit, because what did he say? We know nothing about competition. It's about entertainment. Competition doesn't just take place on the court or field of play. It takes place up here too, in a variety of industries. Go talk to Wall Street. Go talk to all of these Fortune 500 companies. Go talk to media and what have you. There's competition all over the place. It ain't just on the damn football field. It was a very ignorant comment.
Why swing when you've got a hype man like Stephen A. vaporizing your opponents on live television? Shedeur could literally sit back, throw on a pair of shades, munch on a snack, and watch the world roast Dillon Gabriel into fine powder. That's what you call a passive victory, winning simply by existing while your rival melts down. And the beauty of it? Shedeur didn't just look calm, he looked untouchable, while Dillon was trending as the NFL's newest piñata. Meanwhile, Shedeur was trending because his very name sparked the whole fiasco. It was like being the headliner of a concert while someone else volunteered to get booed off stage just so your shine looked brighter. But here's Dillon's fatal error. His move didn't make him look bold. It made him look desperate. And Stephen A. can smell desperation like a shark catching blood in the water. He didn't circle, he attacked. You could see it in the lean forward, hear it in his voice climbing higher, feel it in every word carrying 10 years of pent-up frustration at quarterbacks chasing clout. Dillon just happened to be the unlucky one who wandered straight into the lion's den.
Gabriel was interviewed, he said something I found interesting, which I thought was a shot at his fellow teammate. He said, some people are entertainers and others are competitors. I see myself as a competitor. I thought that was a stray he was trying to throw at his fellow teammate Shedeur. And one thing I can tell you in my short lifespan of 47 going on 48 years, that context, words, and body language matter. More importantly than that, you don't get more light when you try to dim the light of somebody else.
What made the whole thing hilarious was Dillon's face. That split second when he realized the energy had completely flipped. He walked in smirking, thinking he had just dropped the line of the century. But by the time Stephen A. finished, Dillon looked like a kid caught cheating on an open book test. There's nothing worse than realizing you're not the star of the moment. You're just the setup for someone else's punchline. And Stephen A.? He's been on TV for decades, perfecting the craft of dismantling people with nothing but his voice. So Dillon stepping into that ring wasn't courage, it was recklessness. The funniest part? Shedeur's fan base didn't even need to step in. They didn't have to pull out stats, clips, or receipts. All they had to do was point at Stephen A. and say, "Case closed." It was like hiring a lawyer so sharp the judge doesn't even let the other side finish their opening statement. Dillon's case wasn't just weak, it was thrown out before it even started. And here's where it gets even more brutal. Dillon thought he was inserting himself into Shedeur's conversation, but instead, the headline became crystal clear. Stephen A. Smith destroys Dillon Gabriel. Not debates, not challenges, destroys.
Kevin Stefanski has decided to make Dillon Gabriel the QB2. Shedeur, in my mind, should be the backup. Shedeur is the better quarterback. I sort of see Dillon Gabriel, more of a system type quarterback. I do know that, Shedeur, he may not have the athletic traits or the speed of a Josh Allen, but I do think he has the poise and the comfortability just sort of carrying himself as a quarterback, where I really feel like he's going to end up having success here in the NFL, even though he dropped around 5, even though tons of teams passed on him, maybe for different kinds of reasons.
The headline practically wrote itself. Dillon's name wasn't tied to his own moment anymore. It was branded to his humiliation. That's the kind of label you can't shake, no matter how many touchdowns you toss later. And don't think for a second his teammates missed it. Locker rooms are ruthless. You know those guys were pulling out their phones, replaying the clip, roasting him at every opportunity. Hey Dillon, you sure you want to say that to Stephen A. again? Gabriel tried to rattle Shedeur and ended up rattling himself. That's the gap between a player with real momentum and one just scrambling for scraps. And the beauty of it? The timing was flawless. Shedeur is climbing higher, cementing himself as one of the most talked about quarterbacks in the game, while Dillon's fighting just to stay relevant. One is ascending, the other flailing. And Stephen A. drew that line in permanent marker for the whole world to see. You couldn't script it better if you tried, and you know Stephen A. loved every second of it. This is his stage, his arena, his sweet spot.
Y'all surprised? I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like a big chunk of people knew that Shedeur Sanders throws the ball better than Dillon Gabriel. That's why a lot of people were surprised when the Browns drafted Dillon Gabriel ahead of Shedeur Sanders, and that's why a lot of people were even more surprised that Shedeur Sanders fell that far in the draft to begin with. At this point, I think Joe Flacco is probably going to be QB1 in Cleveland, but QB2 and 3 is going to be between Kenny and probably Shedeur. And that's not to say Dillon Gabriel is a bad quarterback or anything, but Shedeur Sanders was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football. And yes, there was questions about his arm strength or whatever, but nobody questioned his talent to throw the ball and to be accurate. So hearing that Browns reporter say it's not even close doesn't surprise me at all. But I just think we got to question the Browns for drafting 2 quarterbacks in the same draft anyways. That right.
This wasn't just about being right. It was about putting on a show while being right. Dillon didn't just get corrected, he got theatrically obliterated. It was pure entertainment, comedy, and sports commentary wrapped into a Shakespearean tragedy, with Dillon playing the fool who never realized he was in the wrong play. Stephen A.'s voice climbed octaves, his words hit like hammers, and in real time, Dillon was transformed into a living meme factory. Dillon's words evaporated instantly, while Stephen A.'s takedown carved itself into collective memory forever. And that's the curse of trying to steal someone else's shine. You don't just fail, you get remembered for failing. Dillon Gabriel is trapped in that loop now. He tried to scale Shedeur's mountain, and instead he got swallowed whole by the avalanche. If you love this breakdown, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more.